All right, hello everyone. So today's masterclass is going to be on a very popular intermediate level marimba solo, Raindance, co-composed by Alice Gomez and Marilyn Rife. This must be one of the most played, marimba solos, kind of for someone who's just starting or has gone through some 2-mallet work and now you're doing 4-mallet work. And I say that because it addresses a lot of issues from a pedagogy standpoint, right? We as teachers can use this piece to cover a lot of things for students. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dig in. All right, in the beginning, so there's 2 issues right off the bat, right? Number 1 is you have these constant 16th notes that are running back and forth between the hands, but each hand has a double at a certain point. So if you're familiar with the text Stick Control by George Lawrence Stone, the very first page actually has this sticking combination. So I highly recommend that if you're finding that you're having trouble getting these 16th notes even between the hands, go back to the basics. Get out your Stick Control and open up that first page and find the one that matches this sticking: right, left, right, right, left. This sticking is also used in one of the PAS rudiments called the flam mill, but without the flam, obviously. So that's issue number 1. Issue number 2 is that we do have a melody versus accompaniment issue. I'm kind of big on this concept of what is the listener supposed to hear. So if we play it like this, sorry, minus the 16th I missed there. If we play it like that, then it's very hard for the listener to know what we're supposed to be listening to. Now, musically, that's accurate, right? There's no distinction in the music that the right hand is supposed to be louder than the left. And generally, right, we're told that's bad and try to balance hands. But in this particular instance, I think that we do have a definite melody that we should be outlining. Now, I have a problem with this piece compositionally in that from the beginning it's marked mezzo forte, and the first actual dynamic that we have that changes is not until measure 33. So if we play this all at the same dynamic, you're going to lose interest very quickly in your audience. So instead, what I like to do with this piece is actually start more around a pianissimo or piano level and let it build all the way until the bass entrance comes in, which is at measure 13, and then crescendo even more until we get to measure 33. So measure 33 is actually the end of the opening of the piece, and we have kind of this little disruption material for a couple of measures before we move into the next longer extended section. So with that in mind, now what we've done is created a lot of interest, created some build, and created a climax from which we can come down and release back into the next section. So just as you're doing a piece like this, any piece like this, right? I like to really think about big picture ideas that you can apply to all the pieces that you play. When you have something that's so repetitive, always be thinking for ways that you can vary it. One of the other ways that this piece is varied is in the accents. So beginning in measure 13, you have these accents that kind of alternate back and forth. Now, a lot of people, if you've done any kind of like marching band or front ensemble experience, we can kind of get into this mindset where an accent is high and a non-accented note is low. So if we take that literally, this part sounds like this. Right, and then that doesn't really make any sense. So we do need to keep in context that it is mezzo forte here, and an accent should really just be something that's above the texture. It doesn't mean that it's 12 inches high necessarily. So. Something like that works a lot better. Okay, when you get to measure 33, now I do this 2 different ways, and it depends if I'm having a student perform it or if I'm having them actually just work on a technical exercise. So from a technique standpoint, I like to have them learn it doing these single alternating strokes the whole time. But if I was going to perform it, I actually have them do inside mallets only. Because you can get just a little bit more power. I am a Stevens grip player, and most of my students end up playing Stevens. So it can be kind of hard to play extra loud there. So I use the inside mallets. Okay. Now, in the next section, again, if we take literally from the music, measure 38, that decrescendo, ends at mezzo forte. So where should we be at measure 41? Mezzo forte. And that is 8 bars, which repeats. And then the next section at 49, also mezzo forte. So again, not a lot of dynamic variation here, and it can get very repetitive and very tedious. So what I like to do in this section, the first time that you repeat, 4 measures, you start at piano, 4 measures crescendo, 4 measures, come back down, only reaching about a mezzo piano at the peak. Then, when you do the repeat, take 8 measures to crescendo to forte. So that way we have a little bit of variation. 49 will be forte until you get to the retard, where there's a marked crescendo up to fortissimo. Okay? So those are just some of the musical ideas that I put into this to help give it a little bit of variation. Oh, it looks like I got my pages out of order here, so that'll be great. Okay. Now in the next section, same kind of idea here with trying to create some musical phrases here. I might do a little more like kind of micro phrasing in this. I'm not a big fan of that, but just because the content is so repetitive, I think that you can give it a little bit of variation. So what do I mean by micro phrasing? If you're going to start at the beginning of the 6/8, right, just the melody. Okay, so that's as written, and obviously I'm at fortissimo. So if I do like I did in some of the earlier sections where I crescendo for 4. Okay, now the problem is that I don't really have anywhere else to go. I'm already as loud as I'm going to get. So in here, I think maybe I just follow the line a little bit more. You get the idea. Sorry, I was like thinking about 3 other things to say, so missed a couple of notes there. All right, and then you also have this interplay with the left hand accent. So again, nothing too strong, just to bring it above the texture. Okay, so all of that put together. Okay, so that's kind of the idea there. All right, now in this roll section, there's not a whole lot to the opening of the roll section. I'm looking at the phrases that are marked with the slur, right? So the first phrase is 4 measures long. The second phrase is 2 + 2 measures long. That's what's marked in the slur. So, if you want to take it really literally, then you need to be careful to connect the A to the D in measure 108 going into 109, for example. Okay, something like that. So it actually sounds like it's 4 measures. When you come back in 111, I would be a little bit softer than the very opening of this roll section, and then really lead up into the second 2-bar phrase, which would be in measure 113. That would be the peak of this. So here's all 8 measures together. Okay, and here we have 4 notes rolled all at once. So which one's the most important? The melody note. At the beginning of this section, measure 115, this would be the mallet 4, which is the most important. So I kind of lean over into that note to make sure you can hear it more. And then it becomes mallet 3 in measure 122. We have this kind of interior harmony that happens. And the interior note, which was harmony, now becomes the melody. Okay, so that's just something to watch out for in this section. One other caveat, in my performance, if you're trying to count at 60 beats per minute through this whole section, you'll notice that I speed up quite a bit. Measure 122. That's basically because it opens up so much. To me, as a musician, it doesn't feel right when it's that slow, and it's hard to really, vary the rolls and still keep it interesting. So I pick up tempo there more about to, 95 beats per minute or something in that zone, 95 to 100 beats per minute. Just so that we kind of move through that section a little bit more and it keeps interesting. Now, if you're doing this for an all-state audition or something like that, I don't recommend doing this. You'll probably get hammered by your judges. However, if I was going to play this on a recital or have a student play it on a recital, this is a musical decision that I choose to make during this section just so that it keeps moving and it doesn't drag. You could try it both ways and you be the judge. I do encourage you to record yourself playing all the time, and so that was one way that I kind of found that I didn't like this section as slow as it was marked, but it was by recording and listening. So I hope that there's some good ideas here that you've kind of caught on to, and that can help you with your performance of Raindance. I would love to hear your comments, and if you have any other questions about specific sections with the piece, feel free to leave those on Facebook or on my Patreon page. All right, thanks so much, and hope you enjoyed this class on Raindance.